And happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kane. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by See-Through Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, as well as Atlas. Thank you guys, as always, for sponsoring our videos. So, I know it's still February, but we do have a chance to see some large hail in the Great Lakes region today, including Chicago. So we'll get into some more details on where we're thinking a large hail will be possible, as well as getting into tomorrow's risk. I think it's going to be mostly a wind risk tomorrow, but I'll talk about where we're thinking wind will set up tomorrow. And then after we get through that, it's going to warm up once again once this trough gets out of the way. So we'll talk about that as well. But before we get into the forecast, we have our very last event. It's ongoing right now on our Raising Hail Tour, and it's in Chicago. So it's kind of interesting that our last event is in Chicago today, and we also have a large hail risk. So hopefully, if you guys are there, you're having a great time, and we can get some large hail in the Chicago metro area today. So let's get into our current conditions across the lower 48. We do have some wet weather going on right now across parts of the eastern United States, of Pennsylvania down into the Virginias, the Carolinas, all the way down into parts of southeastern Oklahoma and Arkansas. And then behind that system, we have some snow falling from Colorado all the way up to Minnesota. So we can zoom on in here, just briefly taking a look at that rain that is falling from Pennsylvania all the way down to the southeast. And then zooming closer into the area that we'll be watching today, you can see plenty of sunshine is out there right now. Very little in terms of cloud cover, so we're starting to build up that heating of the day and getting that atmosphere more prone to severe weather this afternoon. So zooming back on out, let's take a look at our temperatures. It is currently 68 in Fort Wayne, 67 in Kansas City, more 50s and 60s across much of the eastern United States. But then we get behind that system, and it is dropping significantly in terms of temperatures. It's only 26 in Denver. Currently it's 51 in Minneapolis, but that front is about to crash on in very shortly, so those 50s are not going to last much longer. It's going to get a bit colder out there within the next, I would say, half hour or so. In terms of our jet stream, this is what we are looking at right now. Here is the trough that's setting up in the middle of the United States. Some cold air associated with this trough, and we have a little bit of a disturbance here in this trough, and it's going to move off to the east as we get into this evening and then into the overnight hours. And as we get into tomorrow, the eastern part of the trough will be impacting the eastern United States, and then will make its way off the coast as we get into tomorrow night and into Thursday. And then we have another little disturbance here in the middle of the country as we get into Thursday. At this time, though, we're not anticipating anything in terms of severe weather, and that will just sit there basically from Thursday and then into Friday. So let's take a look at our future radar. We're going to zoom into Chicago first. Basically, through about 5 p.m., we should remain dry, but after 5 p.m. getting into 6, you can see storms are expected to just blow up here in the Chicago metro area westward to near Davenport, Iowa. And then as we get into near 8 p.m. at Central Time, those storms will continue to track off to the east and then cross Lake Michigan, and they're expected to then cross into lower Michigan as we get to 10 p.m. Central Time. You can see more storms are expected to fire here from Indianapolis eastward to Columbus, Ohio, maybe as far south as southern Illinois. It's going to be a pretty widespread event, I think, as we get into this afternoon and evening. This is at 1 a.m. Central Time, so 2 a.m. Eastern. Looks like there will be some more linear segments here, so more of a wind threat as we get into the overnight hours. So Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, you guys can get into the action with this activity. And then as we get into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning, this line will continue to push off to the east, bringing some potentially strong to severe winds to areas such as Charleston, West Virginia. So here are our dew points. We do have, for this time of the year, a good amount of moisture here in the Great Lakes region. So that moisture plus the heating of the day and the instability, this is what's going to fuel those storms and keep them going through the overnight hours as we get into Wednesday morning. You can see where that cold front is as well with those higher dew point values, and then behind the front is going to be pretty dry. And so, yeah, it's going to continue to push off to the east as we get into tomorrow afternoon. So this is our significant hail model, and you can see those brighter colors here, the oranges and even some reds in the Chicago area, as well as other parts of Illinois and Indiana. So again, we do have a pretty good chance to see some very large hail today. We're going to be watching you guys in Chicago very carefully. And then as we get into later in the evening, we still have some decent values getting up as far north as central Michigan. And then getting into the overnight, those values start to drop off. So I think, you know, once we get into later on this evening, into the overnight hours, it's going to be more of a wind risk. But the beginning storm modes this afternoon will be most likely discrete, organized supercells that will be hail producers. And then for our significant tornado parameter, so we do have a chance to see some tornadoes as well today. Again, these are just models, but it looks like we have a decent chance to see a few tornadoes, especially in southern Indiana, getting into parts of northern Kentucky. And then as we get into the evening, you can see those colors start to get brighter. So if you're basically south of Indianapolis, so like Evansville, getting into Lexington, Kentucky, I think that's going to be the best area to see a chance for a tornado or two. And then as we get into the overnight hours, you can see those drop off as well. So for today, our largest hail size does look to be up to about tennis ball size. And we're going to now look at exactly where we're thinking things are going to set up in terms of that hail. So here's our hail forecast. The best areas that we're going to be watching for that large hail will be in Chicago, maybe as far north as Milwaukee. High chances there, and then medium chances as we get into Indianapolis down to parts of northern Kentucky. Detroit, my home area, you guys have a chance to see some large hail today too, maybe up to $half size. I think the largest hail is going to stay well to the west of you, and some low-end chances here as we get into Columbus and then as far east into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then for winds, we do have a pretty decent chance to see some high winds to 60, 70 miles per hour, maybe even a bit higher in some localized areas. So Chicago, Lansing, Michigan, all the way down to Indianapolis, Louisville, eastward to Columbus, you guys have a moderate chance to see those severe winds. And then lastly, like I mentioned, there is a tornado risk today. For the most part, it should be a low-end risk for basically those same areas. However, I think we do have a higher chance to see a tornado or two in areas such as Louisville, Kentucky, and as we get into Evansville, Indiana. So don't freak out, just be prepared. Make sure you have all of your storm materials ready and have your plan in place in case a tornado does develop in your area. And then, no surprise, today's city for basically getting into a bit more detail is Chicago. Large hail up to 2.5 inches in diameter is possible. A high chance to see 1 inch or larger hail, and then still a moderate chance to see golf ball size hail or larger. And time frame wise, it looks like it's going to be between 5 and 9 p.m. for you guys in the Chicago area. So if you're out there, make sure you start doing those hail dances. It is that time of the year when we're going to start to see a bit more, activity. We're about to enter I almost said fall. Wrong season. Spring within the next few weeks officially. So getting into tomorrow morning, we do expect to see a line of storms continuing to push through parts of Ohio down into West Virginia, Kentucky, and then as we get into the rest of tomorrow afternoon, some more linear segments look to develop here in parts of western Pennsylvania and New York, and more activity will get into Virginia and the North Carolina, and then as we get into tomorrow evening, this is at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, that activity will start to push off the coast, and then we should be clear as we get to around 10 or 11 Central, so 11 to midnight Eastern time. We should be clear across the region, with just a few leftover showers possible, but nothing in terms of severe weather there. So here is our wind forecast. It should be a pretty marginal chance tomorrow as this system starts to lose a bit of its severe weather punch, I guess you can say. So basically from Burlington, Vermont, down to Philadelphia, and even DC, all the way down to North Carolina, we can see up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts across this region. And then after we get through the next few days, it's going to start warming up. So here is that front that is expected to cross the eastern part of the U.S. getting into tomorrow. Very cold air behind this system, so most of us will be below average for this time of the year. And then getting into Thursday, you can see we're going to start warming up once again. And Friday, getting into our weekend, we really start warming up in the middle part of the country. Cooler than average, though, as we get into the western part of the United States. So the cold, if you don't like it, it's not going to stick around for too long. We're going to warm up once again as we get to this weekend. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, or X, which is what it's called now, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as our TikTok page. Make sure that you hit see first so you don't miss any of our live videos. Click on or scan the code above if you need, if you would like some more information about our products. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can call us at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com, and check out our website at www.hailtrace.com for more information. So again, if you're in the Great Lakes region, especially in Chicago, make sure you guys stay tuned for we may do live coverage if Chicago gets hit, and yeah, we'll keep you updated here as always. But for now, I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday.